There may never have been such a popular opera with such a wildly unpronounceable name. Frankly, it was diabolical on Puccini's part, but I'm gonna commit. So, welcome back to another Opera Unofficial guide, this time for Puccini's Turandot, today on Scores Unstitched. I know an army's coming for me in the comments. There are plenty of fairy tale adaptations in the world, some more successful than others. And at a certain point, I guess it starts to feel like you've kind of seen them all, you know? So I was actually really surprised the first time that I saw Turandot that the story was new to me. I'd say it's kind of like Rumpelstiltskin meets Mulan. I don't know, that feels kind of offensive, but it's like, it's not the vibe. It's set in, do we say ancient China? Like ish, maybe it's like a loosely based Western interpretation of a not at all factual sort of ancient China. Obviously we have Turandot. She is the princess of the world that we're in, and she has decided that she will not marry until her suitor can solve her riddles 3. Every year more and more men come to woo her because she's super hot, and when they can't solve her riddles, she chops off their heads. As you do. We follow Calaf, a prince, presumably from Persia, who falls in love with her when she walks by because she's more beautiful than Cinderella and she smells like pine needles. And against literally everyone's advice, he slides into her DM, shoots his shot, and we're off. So let's start here with the uninitiated opera attendee. First things first, the name. People have opinions. So over here we've got Camp 1. This is the group that pronounces the T at the end. Turandot is a Persian name. It comes from Turan and the word dochter, meaning daughter, often shortened to Docht in Persian names, sounding like Dot to Western ears, daughter of Turan. And on top of that, the story isn't French. The playwright wasn't French. Puccini isn't French. So there's no reason to not pronounce that final T at the end, except Puccini himself did not, as the original soprano for Turandot, I suppose, advises us.
In addition to Turandot, which is pronounced the way I pronounce it, and also it was pronounced by Puccini and Toscanini, so it's really Turandot, not Turandot.
So what do? Do you follow academia, or do you follow the composer's intention? Personally, I will follow the composer's intention in the domain that's his, i.e. the music. So when I'm singing, I won't pronounce the T unless the conductor says otherwise. In all other times, I'll say the T. And honestly, if you can't be arsed, just pick one. They're both right, and it really doesn't matter. The next potential trip up will be the libretto. Like most operas, the libretto for Turandot is poetry. So when you're reading the super titles, they're not going to translate the Italian poetry into normal 21st century English. It's going to feel like you're back in English lit class, but I promise you, it is so worth it to do a little bit of that interpretive work, because listen to how beautiful some of these translations are. Si profumo di lei l'oscurità. The darkness is scented with her perfume. Shut up. That's like so much better than I can still smell her. Stunning. Il tuo sgomento vedi il pallor dell'alba sul mio volto. Your fear sees dawn's pallor on my face. Oh my God. Instead of you're scared because the sun's coming up. No notes. No notes. Moving on, third heads up, Turandot herself. Now the story never says how old she is, but she kind of reads like your standard Western, like Disney princess. You'd be thinking late teens, early 20s. The soprano is not going to be that. Not even close. Not even close. And it's because the role of Turandot is vocally huge. Puccini wrote for this massive orchestra. And remember, there are no microphones in opera. The bigger the orchestra, the bigger the voice you need to carry over all of that. And big voices, like the kind you need for what Puccini wrote for Turandot, don't usually develop until women are a little bit older. For instance, Puccini's original Turandot was 33. And today, 100 years later, trends much more favor, that's not a phrase. Trends much prefer, opera has trended towards, you know what I'm trying to say. We like bigger, darker voices now. So today, you're probably gonna see somebody who's at least 40, usually older, in this role. Ludmila Monastirska was 46 in this production that I've been showing on the screen at the Met in 2022. And even last year at La Scala, Anna Netrebko was 52. The point is, if you're expecting Mulan in how she looks, It ain't gonna be it. By the way, if this interests you, I have made a whole video about the opera voice types, actually two, one for women, one for men. I've linked those down in the description. Okay, last thing before we start getting into the meat of Turandot. This opera is depth, not breadth. The priority is world building and emotional depth, very Tolkien. Like, you know, we will spend 10 minutes getting the backstory of a completely inconsequential character, Calaf's dad, the chorus, Ping, Pan, and Pong. Let's not talk about those names. But then tell me why, for such a huge plot point, Puccini makes the riddle scene like 2 minutes long. I'm serious. Like, if you zone out for, you know, you're just like watching the chorus talking about the moon on the lake and all the trees and I don't know, whatever the chorus is talking about, and you start thinking about velvet seats and God, why did we ever stop making velvet seats, you know? Or like, I wonder if my opera gloves are too much. They're not, by the way. And then you look up, oops, oh my God, opera glass is up. You've missed every single riddle. Honestly, it's rude. It's rude. It goes by fast. That's what I'm saying. It goes by fast. All right, disclaimer's done. Now, for anyone who is actually like physically getting off the couch and putting on a ball gown and bejeweling yourself, I love that for you. Here's what you can expect. Turandot is 3 acts long with about 2 hours of music. Most opera houses will take 2 intermissions for you to have a glass of wine, powder your nose. So you can probably expect to be at the opera house for about 3 to 3.5 hours total. Now, if that's enough for you to go enjoy the show, thanks for sticking around. Have fun. But it does only scratch the surface. To really get into that meat and potatoes of Turandot, we need to look at both the history and the composition. So let's get into it. Turandot was the last opera Puccini ever wrote, with a libretto by Renato Simoni and Giuseppe Adami, with whom he'd also worked on previous operas La Rondine and Il Tabarro. He worked on the opera for about 3 years, and then in March of 1924, he had finished writing everything, except for the final scene between the prince and Turandot. Puccini was, and still is, really, really well known for understanding human emotion and why characters make certain decisions, and so he wasn't happy with the text of that final scene that he had gotten from the librettists yet, because the emotions leading up to the decision that Turandot has to make, trying very hard not to put in spoilers here, it just didn't feel right to him yet. He was also kind of low-key, high-key worried that he and the librettists had already hit the best emotional climaxes twice before this point. Once during the riddle scene and then once during another scene that happens right before the final duet. So the last scene, the whole scene that wrapped up the whole opera, was feeling kind of anticlimactic to him. And then parallel to that, in like the real world, Puccini was diagnosed in 1924 with a malignant and inoperable tumor on his epiglottis, throat cancer. He had been a very heavy smoker for his whole life. And then later that year, in November of 1924, he went to Brussels to get treatment, which basically involved sticking radioactive needles into his throat. And whether something went wrong or if it was just bad luck, Puccini did wind up dying of a heart attack a couple of days after that first treatment at the age of 65, and he left Turandot's final scene unfinished. But because literally everything up until that point was finished, like fully scored, Puccini's publisher was not about to let an entire opera go to waste. Understandably. So the publisher commissioned Franco Alfano, a composer with a style that was pretty similar to what Puccini had done in Turandot specifically, to finish the opera on Puccini's behalf. And ultimately, that's the version that got published. That's the version you'll see in these Ricordi scores, Ricordi being Puccini's original publisher. If you go to watch or if you're listening to Turandot, you'll probably hear the Alfano version, but you could get lucky. There have been quite a few composers throughout the entirety of the last century who've been commissioned to write their own endings for Turandot, based on both the sketches that Puccini left behind, of course, on those manuscripts, but also on their own academic study of his entire oeuvre over the last century. If you wanted to do a bit of Turandot hopping around the world to see all the different endings, well, I don't know, that could be a new niche hobby. Right, so that's how Turandot was composed. Now, let's take a look at the composition, shall we? I had to move my mic so I can play. I hope it works. Now, if you've been here for a while, you know, I'm a Puccini stan, okay? Full disclosure, La Bohème was the first opera I ever saw. It changed my life. The man could make me have an objectophiliac relationship with my tax returns if he set them to music. So you need to take me with a grain of salt. But I think Turandot is Puccini's magnum opus, truly. It is just like this masterful blend of everything he learned in his career. We have all kinds of thematic exploration. It's this perfect contrast between these very bombastic moments and then very tender moments. We have harmonic complexity that's still actually pleasant to listen to. God, I love that. I just feel like it's so memorable. This is very easily in my list of top 5 operas that I would take somebody to go see if they've never seen an opera before. Not least because they're pretty much guaranteed to recognize the prince's aria from Act 3, Nessun Dorma. Remember this? If not that, maybe this. Maybe those aren't familiar at all. You've got virgin ears. That's cool. Let's listen to it. So this is the 2022 production at the Met, like I said. The tenor here is Young-hoon Lee. He's been singing at the Met for about 10 years now. Gorgeous voice. We'll stop there for a second before we get carried away. So it's immediately familiar, right? Right? Should move it to this side. That would make more sense. So far it's a fairly simple harmonic progression. We're just going between 2 chords. You've got the standard G major, and then we move into something a little bit more jazz inspired. Well, not inspired, it's a precursor to jazz actually, but very popular among late romantics. We're talking Schubert, we're talking Wagner, that sort of motion. And fair enough, we're setting up this contrast here between the chorus being very scared that they're about to die, and the prince being very excited that he's going to get the princess as soon as the sun comes up. He couldn't care less about the chorus. But what I actually find the most interesting is the melody that Puccini decides to put on top of these 2 chords that we're moving between here. It has this perfect blend of familiarity and then like that little bit of spice to keep things interesting. So at first we have this jazzy chord here, Nessun Dorma, and then an octave, Nessun Dorma. Octaves set up that repetition for us, so that's very familiar. Then we go back up to that same note, Tu pure principessa, nella tua fredda stanza. Okay, so what was that? Because we're expecting this, tu mia principessa, nella tua fredda stanza, which isn't actually what happens. Puccini throws a little spice in there. Da 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 da. Ah, gorgeous, just enough to keep you interested. And then we go up to a nice high note, interesting to our ear because it's exciting. Again, that ba-da-da-da-dum. And then we repeat it, of course. Che tremano d'amore. And then guess what? E di speranza. All right, let's keep going. so famous, right? Good God, it's good. So Calaf is his name, by the way. He's hype. He's hippity hype. He knows that the sun comes up and the princess isn't gonna know his name, and then he's like, got her, and he can't wait until that moment happens. And we hear that in this like lovely ascending line, and all it is just a sequence. We have this, ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me. Moving up one note, il nome mio nessun saprà. Raising up, no, no, sulla tua bocca lo dirò. We're just moving through a scale in the vocal line and then just a little sequence down in the bottom. It goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Right, all right, then we get this tiny little verse reprise and the chorus is singing about how they're all gonna die, the music is too exciting for us to care, and then we get to the reason that we all came to see this opera. Clap. People will clap. You can't help it. You can't help it. It is, I've hit my lamp in excitement because it's a high B for the tenor. That's so exciting. And there's like, oh my God, look at it in the score. Look at the hilarious way that Puccini wrote this. It's like a little guy. It's a little guy. There ain't nobody in the world who sings it like that. Heck no. We want the build. We want the tension. We want that climax. And then when you get it, you've got this denouement, if it can even be called that just continues to bring the hype. I mean, find me a soccer stadium that has more energy than the end of Nessun Dorma in an opera house. I bet you the only one is when Pavarotti actually sang it in a soccer stadium. I get excited. I'm not going to apologize. Now, if you are going to see this, the tenor who sings this role has been hired because in some way, shape, or form, he has made himself known for singing this aria. So for the sake of comparing and contrasting, I'll play 2 more recordings of just that little end section there so you can hear how different tenors across time have handled this particular role. We'll start here with my favorite, Franco Corelli. It's not just the music. It's not just the music. I mean, okay, a lot of it's the music, but it isn't. It's, you know what it reminds me of? You know what it reminds me of one of those really old-fashioned Disney princes. I know you. I don't know. It hits my little sweet spot. It's my little sweet spot. Another one that's very popular, of course, is Pavarotti. I think he's actually the one who probably made this aria big for most people living today. So we'll look at that one. Oh God, no, I have so many things to comment on, but like, first of all, it's just, it's so instantly recognizable that it's his voice. There's nobody that sounds like Pavarotti. It's ridiculous. Like, truly once in a generation singer. I mean, the man's queen for a reason. He just is. Of course, there are also loads of other recordings. YouTube is your friend. For now, we really need to move on. So there are 2 more moments that I would recommend listening out for in Turandot. First, we will fast forward a little bit into Act 3. This is the last scene that Puccini ever wrote in his life, in fact. It was the one, remember, that made him feel like he had hit the climax of the show already and then couldn't figure out how to write that last scene. This is the aria from Liu Tu che di gel sei cinta. There for a second. Now, this music that we've just heard, it features a lot of what Puccini was known for. We've talked about repetition in sequences. If you know a little bit about theory, you're hearing some of the pentatonicism in there. But what really makes this scene stand out is that Turandot, the opera, is big. Everything about it, from the roles to the set to the orchestra, everything is huge. Liu is like the only physically small thing in the entire opera. She's got this almost childlike innocence. She's very sweet. And we heard it on this first high note that she has. It's soft. It's such a contrast to the whole rest of the opera. Like, up until this point, it's just been nothing but big, 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 big. And then this very introspective, calm, quiet moment from Liu just hits all the harder. It's like, I get the sense almost of like walking into a butterfly house, you know, that everything feels very light, fragile, suspended. It's like you're holding your breath a little bit, and it's just so beautiful. That's this aria. Big old plot point happens right there. I don't want to spoil it. This is why Puccini was stumped when he wrote this. He hit the emotional climax of the opera. He had his little Pixar moment. If you're going to cry, it's going to be now. And he died before he could figure out how he was going to top it, which is a beautiful transition into the companion video that I have made for this particular unofficial guide. For each of these operas, I make a video of myself singing an aria, and the one that I did for Turandot is this particular aria, Tu che di gel sei cinta. There are also some other great recordings of this from world-class sopranos. I would highly recommend checking that out. I will link my favorites down below as well. Oh Lord, it is hot, y'all. Last thing, since we've already talked about how the ending is not codified and you might be seeing something a little different than what was originally published. Cool. We're actually going to go back into Act 1. The biggest shout out that you'll hear to Chinese culture in Turandot is Turandot herself's leitmotif, I guess. Close enough anyways. It's a very famous Chinese folk song called Lì Huā, or Jasmine Flower, and he includes the entire thing. Different words, but the melody is the same. there you go. That comes back a couple of times throughout the rest of Turandot, so keep an ear out for that because it is authentic. And hey, that's Turandot. Now, if you are actually going to see the opera, I would recommend checking out the unofficial opera scorecard. It's a no spoilers PDF, or you can print it out, some fun facts, some icebreaker questions, what I would recommend listening out for. It's totally free, and I've linked that down in the description below. If you like this video, you might be interested in checking out my other unofficial opera guide to Puccini's other Eastern-inspired opera, Madame Butterfly. Otherwise, thanks for nerding out with me again, guys, and I'll see you next time on Scores Unstitched.